How's everyone doing today? Good. Beautiful day. So let's just do a quick round of introductions.
Hey everyone, I'm Lisa Carmen Wang. I'm a four-time U.S. national champion gymnast turned serial entrepreneur, angel and crypto investor, founder of the Bad Bitch Empire. We help women build unapologetic self-worth and wealth by leveraging the power of Web3.
Awesome. How can I follow that? I'm Daniel P. Calderon, president of Entrepreneurs of Tomorrow, and we focus on teaching Black and brown kids how to solve problems through entrepreneurship.
I'm John, the CEO of SafeMoon.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. So today's topic, it's a little vague, which is actually a good thing. So it's impact everywhere. And I kind of want to start this topic by, us coming out of the pandemic, things are finally starting to normalize. New York finally lifted the mask mandate. It's just nice being here and being back in person. And I think coming out of the pandemic, a lot of things were flipped on their head. Like a lot of, we're still working from home. A lot of things just aren't going to go back to a normal that we knew before. And it kind of leaves a lot of room for impact. So what do you guys think in what you're doing at the moment is what you want to be the most impactful?
Well, one thing for me is really, it's all about closing the wealth gap for women, getting more women investing. If you look at the stats, only 26% of women invest in the stock market, only 15% of women invest in crypto. And while we all know about the funding gap, I think the next big thing that we have to do is teach women through the education, through community, through building those networks and access to actually be able to get access to the right cap tables, to get access to allocation, so that we're also getting those deals. And that starts with education. And so that's what we're doing with the Bad Bitch Bitcoin Bootcamp. It's a 4-week intensive to learn everything from how to open up your wallet securely and safely to doing your own research, building up that confidence, that abundant money mindset, and then committing to a certain amount of money that you plan to invest into the markets.
I love that. And it really does start with education. We were talking about earlier, a big part of your program is just teaching people also how to learn. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. Also, we focus on closing wealth gaps. And if you know anything about wealth gaps in America, white families average about 170K thousand a year, and black families 17K. So that's a huge wealth gap, and that's what we focus on at Entrepreneurs of Tomorrow, and really giving students the opportunity to learn. And then another gap is an education gap, where black students specifically are behind in math and reading. So we start from K to 5 and teaching people how to learn. Oh yeah, absolutely. Testing. Can you hear me properly now? Awesome. And this is important, so thank you so much for making my mic more clear. But the education gap in teaching our black students how to learn, because if you don't really know how to learn, how are you going to get to the next step and really focusing on closing those wealth gaps? So we do that through our entrepreneurship program, where we do a summer incubator, where we teach students how to build their business from planning to building it to also pitching it. And so far, it's been so amazing how our students, this is our 3rd year in, and our students have grossed 100K so far from the education that we've been giving them. So that impact is really, really important. So not only are we focusing on providing this education, and a lot of education nonprofits, focus on the kids that they put through programs, and we're focusing on what is that wealth gap, and 100K is a big statement for really making sure that we put our money where our mouths are.
And it's kind of interesting too. I mean, I know you were on a panel before about like being crypto curious, but how do you educate people about crypto? Like, how do we educate the younger generation, not on what crypto is as like a phenomenon, but like how we would use it in our daily life, or how you would pursue a career in it? So are you guys like, what do you think about that?
So you got to demystify it. First off, I make it mainstream knowledge. Crypto is going to be the future, whether people like it or not. The efficiency that is created from using crypto as a store of value to information gathering in a very transparent form it's here to stay. So when educating, you actually have to work on the communication style. What you would say to someone from another generation, you would not say to a kid. And then again, also, they're a lot quicker at picking up on new trends, new innovations. Prime example is a family friend of mine has a 3-year-old, and they were playing Temple Run better than I could. And I'm like, I'm not that old, but I felt old at that point in time.
Yeah.
So it's being able to communicate with it. And I think also diving into the education aspect and actually teaching about blockchain and the core fundamentals around blockchain and what it is at a very early age is going to make that knowledge more mainstream as we progress.
I agree completely. And like Eli, who's here, we're at CoinDesk, we were talking about this earlier, is that it's kind of a funny juxtaposition. Like some of CoinDesk is like the boomers, and then the rest is like under 25, and like anyone under 25 like can pick it up so quickly. So I definitely think it's something that should be integrated in the school systems from a much, much earlier age. But it's so complicated, like how people, like right now at CoinDesk, we're seeing that people are understanding crypto through buzzwords, and that's great. But they'll like associate it with stuff they see on Twitter, or they'll be like, yeah, NFTs, Bored Ape, and all that's great, but like they don't really fully understand it. And I think there's a lot of mixed messages out there. And if we could just educate people at a younger age, this is what crypto is, and I'm sure that you guys are doing this too, on what it really is. So like it's bad bitches. What is it again?
Well, we've got the Bad Bitch Bitcoin Boot Camp.
Love it. Yeah, tell us about the boot camp.
So, yeah, I mean, we start off with exactly educating. We say week 1 is speak like a crypto boss.
Oh, I
so
love that.
We go through crypto slang. We go through what exactly is blockchain, what exactly is cryptocurrency, how is that tied together, what does peer-to-peer mean, what does permissionless and trustless actually mean. And it goes back to the big why, which I think getting people to understand the overarching narrative, which is it's about freedom, access, and ownership. Because in the previous, in Web 2, it was really around there are these larger conglomerates. There's the centralized authorities who have access to your data, who own your data. With the brands that you love, you're a consumer, you're a follower, but you're not an owner. And in Web 3, because of blockchain technology, the brands that you love, the movements or the communities that you're part of, you now have the opportunity to own and grow and evolve with them. And so as women, we've often sat on the sidelines, or we've been left out of the boys club. And so we don't get to make those decisions. We don't get to be the leaders. We don't get to have equity in certain companies because we just didn't get in there. But with blockchain, why it's important for women to get involved is because you have the opportunity to own it and to shape the future we want to live in. And so when we explain that technology in the sense of here's the big why, here's why it matters, here's the impact, it kind of activates something inside of them that says, oh, like this is the motivation that I need to continue even if I don't really understand it or it feels a little intimidating. And so we start with that foundation before we go into let's safely and securely open up your wallets. In week 2, we actually create frameworks for thinking about how to do your own research on different altcoins. How do you figure out what's hype and what's real? Who do you follow? And so women can feel confident about making their investment choices and figuring out a strategy for themselves. Week 3, we talk about how do you get involved with NFT communities. We go NFT shopping together and different strategies for whether you're flipping or you want to hold them, and how do you evaluate Discord communities. And then the 4th week, we double down and say, okay, now that you've kind of understand high level some of these areas, you've committed to investing. Now, how do you think about diversifying and growing your investments in crypto and beyond? And then that kind of moves them into our next stage, where now we're building up our accredited base of female investors as we start to think about how do we present different deals to the group of bad bitches who now are in crypto.
I want to go to that boot camp. Actually, anyone I hire, I want to send to your boot camp. But that's like, it's also something too that we've seen in crypto is that people forget, like, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And I think that ties back to impact and being an entrepreneur. Like, what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and how are we going to solve it? So like, is that something that you guys present to a lot of students in your program? Like, what is the real world issue, and how are we going to solve it? Or is there like a different format that you take?
It's interesting. So when we think about the scope of nonprofits, sometimes the ideology and the process or how that content is distributed is so archaic.
Yeah.
And so what we focus on is like, how do we make a nonprofit feel like Nike? And how do we
that's
get
cool.
Generation Z to really be engaged in everything that we're doing? So we're literally using content and focusing on bringing people in the fold. Like, if there is some sort of celebrity, like, Kirby, who wrote for John Legend, and she went on tour. She volunteered her time to talk to our students. So like, how do we use my experience? I used to be executive for Amazon and Target. How do we use those connections to really pull our children in? Because there's so many distractions. And in terms of when you think about the attention economy, kids are only focusing on specific things. So instead of, like really berating kids and saying like, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z, how do we build systems? How do we build programming? How do we build entertainment so that we can pull them in? Because, the systems that be, when you think about marketing, there's a specific scientific method when we are able to get people's attention. So how do we use those same systems to really garner attention for good?
Yeah, and it's so hard to get people's attention in crypto. I mean, people already, I think everyone's attention span is what, like 20 seconds, maybe 15. And with crypto, it just is at light speed. I've been in the space since like the ICO boom, which feels archaic, in 2017. But things move so fast. I mean, already like NFTs are a great example. There seems to be a new NFT. Like it's just crazy, and it moves so fast. So how do we capture people's attention?
It's interesting. So so we did our first NFT last year, and we were able to partner with a brand called Theophilio, and he was named the CFDA Fashion Fund Emerging Designer of the Year. Oh, wow. And just really being so so having audacity to say, hey, we need you because you're getting all this attention and we're pouring into your brand and, consumerism, right? So what are you going to do? And holding people accountable, like, what are you going to do to give back to that community? So that partnership, building that NFT, really did so many wonders. And we have had so many signups from people who are interested in fashion tech. So now we're figuring out, like, how do we build our next conference in the metaverse? So just really using all of our resources to make sure that we engage kids in the right way. And having partners like CoinDesk and like everyone, I'm going to figure out, and I'm going to email you, hopefully you respond, to figure out how do we engage people and kind of really mine, to use the word, mine information and provide access to this information. Because this information is there, but like, how do you make sure that you figure out a system in a way that it's easy to teach kids how to do this?
Like, how can it resonate? Like, how can
Exactly.
it stick? Like, asking the audience, like, what captures your attention in crypto? Like, raise your hand if most people are like understanding crypto through Twitter, or that's kind of just how you're understanding it. A few people. Is it through media? Is it through like push notifications? Like, we all hear about crypto, but like, what is like really resonating? And that's just kind of, I mean, like, I'm calling on the audience. Like, does anyone have an answer that they'd like to share? CoinDesk. Yay, CoinDesk, love that. But no, seriously, like, if we all know what crypto is, but like, how did you first learn about it, and like, how did it resonate? Like, what was the medium in which that happened?
So my medium, I'm Gen X, and so my medium was when it really hit what I'll call widespread news. So I follow the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
I follow the New York Times, the Financial Times, and it starts to rush in. So if you look at the most popular articles and things, it's about crypto, the metaverse, and so that's how I got the information. Once I did that, I started to Google and learn more. But it came from what I would call very popular, widespread news.
Came from news. I love to hear that. How about you?
The movie Dope in 2015.
Wait, what was it called?
Dope.
Dope.
It came out in 2015, and there was a bunch of kids learning how to do different stuff, and they were using Bitcoin. So that was the first time I ever saw it, and it made me start researching and seeing.
Nice.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Lawyers back in 2016.
Lawyers.
Didn't, as a lawyer, but in 2016, some of the courts started to come across cases where crypto was involved in a criminal defense type sense and didn't really understand how to explain it, present it, and of course, a lot of the attorneys were like, "Oh crap, it's
Tricky.
yeah." 'Cause
Any famous cases? Any you can name? I mean, you can hint.
Out of Ohio, it's interesting, at least, and I hate to capitalize off it, but the opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
Crypto being used in terms of being able to obtain heroin, fentanyl, and all that. It's interesting, but a lot of the judges are, 3-4 times our age who've been on the bench for so long and don't really want to know it, don't care to learn it, don't understand the terms itself, so it's just a foreign language. So it requires a lot of the newer attorneys to kind of help create those arguments, even if it's an unfortunate losing battle.
Yeah, it starts with education.
Yeah, in 2014, a client wanted to pay me in Bitcoin, and I didn't know anything about it. Super skeptical, and he taught me how to open a Coinbase account, and I immediately swapped $1,000 worth of Bitcoin immediately.
Oh no.
At least it wasn't.
That's
for pizza.
painful.
Yeah, 2014. I think it was like maybe $150 or something like that.
That's cool to hear, though. I mean, like, you guys all learned about crypto through, like, a lot of different ways, like a movie, news. I love to hear the news.
I got a story.
Yeah.
So my son, when he was in high school, tried to get his false driver's license.
Wait, you mean like a fake ID so he could be like 21, or just a fake driver's license?
Fake ID.
Okay, got it.
15 years old, sent Bitcoin to China. Fake ID from China.
Wow. You should have saved that Bitcoin. Word. Actually, you're a founder of a crypto company. How did you hear about crypto?
So I found out about it while working for lack of better terms, a case that involved cryptocurrency from a counterterrorism side. And while it was for some nefarious activities, that's when I learned that blockchain and crypto is like the worst place to move money around if you're trying to hide it, because you can't delete the ledger, and it's transparent. Anybody can see it. You just have to be educated enough to actually know what you're looking at and then actually follow the dots. So that's where I discovered it. But that's when I learned about what blockchain technology was, because I had to learn the fundamentals behind it in order to actually be effective at my job.
Yeah. I mean, quick pulse check. Would you say that before buying a crypto, any kind of coin or an NFT, you should read about it first? Like, read in depth. I'm not saying like read some tweets or like you read like something on social, but raise your hand if you are an owner or like a holder in crypto, you've read about it in depth before buying. Okay, nice. You guys are smart. I feel like that's not always the case, and it's just so important to read and educate, and just like how we can infiltrate this in school systems at a much, much younger age. I mean, I am on the media side of this. I know I'm biased, but I do think that we need to start like, it should be something by kindergarten, first grade, that you should understand not what blockchain is, because it's so complicated, not everyone can understand what it is, like, but at least like understand the concept in theory.
And it's interesting, when we were pitching our curriculum to schools, they're saying the kids are too young.
Yeah.
So when you think about who's running these systems, that's the problem. And you could talk about reading and educating, but really what's going to get a kid from Brooklyn, that's where I'm from, to buy into this is seeing me talk about it.
Yeah.
And when we really think about how simple education is, how simple this problem is, and we don't intellectualize it, that's where we could really make that strong difference. So that's what we're doing at Entrepreneurs Tomorrow. Like, how do we create media? Like, I had my friend who dances for Avenelli dance a piece. That one dance have made such a big impact than me producing an article on cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
So when we think about, like, how do you really reach communities? It's to put people on stages, put people in media, put people in positions of power to show that if I look like this, someone who looks like me can actually have wealth or learn about crypto, or it's not that hard. Hey, yo, what's up, Dan? Yo, you into that crypto stuff? Oh, that's dope. That's what we need, right? That's the conversation. That's where you're really making traction. So once we start really understanding that, let's not try to make it so intellectual.
Yeah.
I think we could.
Down.
Exactly.
I'm so sick of hearing, like, we were at a panel earlier today, and the panel was great, but I feel like there was a big chunk of the narrative that sounded like regurgitated from the other person. It's like piecing together these buzzwords. It's like, let's just really talk about it. Like, we don't need to keep like talking about this hype and stuff that doesn't like, let's talk about what the use case is, what problems are we solving with this technology, what's actually going on. Let's just like break it down. But I'm also going to ask you, so for your boot camp, I mean, we've been talking about education a lot, and you said that you've learned through crypto through like legal stuff. And like, how do we educate not just the younger generation, but the older generation? And like, so what's the average age of a lot of the people that are in your boot camp?
Well, it's actually across the board. We have a woman who's as young as 18 taking it, and we have a woman who's as old as 72.
Wow.
In boot camp. Yeah.
That's so cool. How's a 72-year-old doing?
Great. She has so much energy. She's a serial entrepreneur, and I've never seen someone love and appreciate life so much. She's fearless, and I think she's definitely an inspiration to so many of the women.
That's so cool. And then at SafeMoon, I mean, you probably can't, like, you don't have to disclose this information, but, like, what's the demographic of your users? Is it ranging between a big gap or?
It's very wide. A good example is on our moderation team for Discord, we have, a college student, and then we actually have a retired board-certified physician. So SafeMoon is definitely a very diverse dichotomy in terms of, or very diverse demographic in terms of who our users are.
Nice. Very cool. Well, do you guys have any questions for us? I know we've been dominating the conversation. Anyone have any questions? Yep. Nice.
That's fantastic.
Love that. I mean, I bet the crypto club is actually really cool. I bet it's actually where all the cool kids hang out. I would be part of the crypto club for sure. Anyone else have any questions, statements, thoughts?
What do each of you want everyone here to walk away with? One message.
I guess the one message for me is like really how do you learn about crypto? What do you actually think about it? Like, push aside like the social media bullshit, even the news at times. Like, what do you actually know about it first? And then what do you really think about it? And like, what would I want to tell someone else about it? Like, what would I want to tell my best friends about it? And not just like for clout or just because it's trendy, but what do I actually think would be impactful about this space and industry? Because it's inevitable that's going to be part of our daily lives, but just in what way? So I think, at least for me, that's what I think is really important.
So one thing that we reiterate to all the bad bitches in our community is that you don't need permission to be powerful. And I think that so often our society like, especially for women, it's like we're waiting for someone to give us permission to just start, to launch, to invest, to do things. And especially in crypto, there are no experts. It's changing so quickly, and so you also don't need to wait for permission to jump in and ask a question, or to jump in and say, you know what, I want to be a part of this community, and just start speaking up and really just making your assets work for you, because that is what this space is all about. Crypto's literally permissionless, and so I think just always remembering that there, don't have to think about insiders and outsiders, because crypto is about being inclusive, and the technology enables that.
It's about community. I love that part of it. It's about community. That's one thing that I've always loved about crypto, is sometimes it's a little incestuous. You see the same people all the time, and I kind of like that about it. It's always like a reunion. Community is huge. It is all about community, and that's great.
One thing, so I had a couple of conversations. I was here since this morning, and so many wonderful people that want to make huge impact. And how do we impact millions of people? But I think you said there's like 400 people that came through here, and if all of the 400 people that came here bring one person along, how much impact that would make. So if we simplify how do we think about impact, and I think we would definitely have more of it versus trying to have lofty goals and trying to save the world. So how do you save one person?
For me, would be figure out what ROI, or return on impact, means for you individually, and then go forth and do good things.
So I actually have a comment. Thanks to Jordan and Grid Daily. We sponsored 15 podcasts yesterday.
Let's go.
Did one with Lisa. We'll continue to do that, and we host these on the Global Investor Conference site and the Link to Learn site. And every month we have about 3 or 4 live sessions that we touch into Bitcoin, crypto, metaverse, all sorts of things that people want to learn about. So just join us on Link to Learn. It's free. It's about a community. It's about learning. It's about sharing. So whoever wants to learn, great. Whoever wants to share their knowledge, just let me know. We'll get you on there.
So, two things. One, my business partner over there, Trisha. I'm going to embarrass her for a second. It'll probably embarrass me because I'm very not politically correct. But we just went to the Inc. Founders Club, and the topic, ironically, at 11:20 a.m. was about diversity and inclusion in crypto. And she looked at me jokingly and she says, "Where's all the black people?" And at the time, it was just us, right? And then it got us down this deep road about like, well, why aren't they here? Is it because we're not inviting them? Is it because the culture at home doesn't like you kind of made a fun joke, like they're not saying, "Yo, dude, you know, like, what's up, bro? You into that crypto?" You know, like, are these conversations that are happening? And we actually talked about starting a charity. We just started talking about that today, about like how do we get on stages and do things like that. So I want you guys to connect. But the second impact for me is I know how important it is for blockchain to dominate the world. Look at what's happening in Ukraine. Look what's happening in Russia. Look at individual property rights being stripped by governments all around the world. Even, I don't care what your political view is, you see what's happening to the truckers in Canada and wherever else, where banks are literally just freezing assets. And then you see pressure, and you know, whether your beliefs are on Ukraine or not, but you're seeing Ukrainian vice prime minister literally begging companies, Elon Musk, everyone to shut down economies and limit people's individual rights. They're literally wanting to kill blockchain access to people so that Russians, everyday Russians, not everybody wants to support that war, can't access their stuff. MasterCard, Visa in Ukraine shutting down payments. So for me, I built a really large audience of gaming, and I started something called the Crypto Gaming Team. And for me, my own personal responsibility is I want to educate gamers on the values of crypto and how that can apply to their lives. And my crypto gaming team, now we have over 1,500 people all around the world. My mission is to solve global poverty by showing people, getting emotional here, but I know the impact that we can have. And guys, we're here today. We are privileged. We are privileged to be here and invest and lose money in whatever shitcoin, right? And we laugh about it, like, oh, remember when we invested in that, right? And the impact that I'm able to make by investing in different NFT and crypto gaming and have what we call scholars for my guild to play these video games and make more money than they could having a real job in Nigeria, in Brazil, in the Philippines, all of these countries, these people wake up every day thankful to play video games for me. And I think that we're underselling the amount of impact, that ROI, the return on impact that we can make just by using our capital. And this is what I love about blockchain and crypto, is that we have ownership, and like you said, we don't have to ask for permission. We're empowered and we're able to do amazing things that just 2 years ago would be unimaginable. Rant over.
This is a great rant. This is a great rant. Well, I think that's it for us. Thank you guys so much for joining. We really appreciate it. I think we're sticking around. If anyone has any questions, come find us. We'll be here. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we really appreciate it.